You know those super cheap, dusty-looking gaming PCs you see for sale online? Ever wonder if they're a hidden bargain or just junk? Well, we're gonna find out. Today, we're taking a forgotten, spider-infested rig and turning it into a seriously capable gaming machine with just two really simple upgrades. Let's get into it.
And when I say spider-infested, I am not messing around. Seriously, the very first thing that happened when I unboxed this PC was a giant spider making a mad dash for freedom. So yeah, this quote pretty much sums up that exact moment, and it kind of sets the tone for this whole adventure.
So, what did this whole thing cost? Get this, just 110 pounds. That's under $150 US. And for that price, you get the PC, all the parts inside, and apparently a complimentary set of cobwebs.
All right, with our eight-legged friend evicted, it was time to pop the side panel off and see what we were actually working with. What were we gonna find in here? Treasure or trash?
You know, after peeling back the dust and webs, I was actually pretty surprised. With these ultra-budget builds, you're kind of bracing for the absolute worst, but there were a couple of real gems hiding in plain sight.
And these are the parts that gave me some hope. First, a GTX 1650 Super. Now that's important. Not a regular 1650, the Super version, which has a lot more punch. And second, a solid 600-watt power supply from FSP. It's a reliable brand, and it even has extra power connectors, which is great news for any future upgrades.
But, of course, it wasn't all sunshine and roses. I mean, for a PC to be this cheap, some corners had to be cut. And a quick look around revealed two major red flags. Two things that were almost certainly just choking the life out of this system. And here they are, our main suspects. First, just one single stick of 8 GB RAM. That means the whole system is running in single-channel mode, which is a huge performance killer. It puts a speed limit on your CPU. And the second, even bigger problem is the processor, a Ryzen 3 3200G. 4 cores is okay, but only 4 threads. That lack of multi-threading is a massive bottleneck in modern games. So, with our suspects lined up, it was time to gather some evidence. I put the PC through its paces, exactly as it was, to get a baseline. I needed to see just how badly these parts were holding it back. And just so we're all on the same page, a CPU bottleneck is pretty simple. It's when your processor is running at 100%, flat out, but it still can't feed your graphics card data fast enough. Your GPU is just sitting there, bored, with all this power it can't use because it's waiting on the CPU. It's a total performance cap.
And this table right here says it all. Look at that CPU usage. In heavy hitters like Cyberpunk and GTA 5, the processor is just pegged at 100%. It was causing awful stuttering freezes, and I'm talking textures literally popping into existence right in front of me. The GPU was begging for something to do, but the CPU just couldn't keep up. Okay, so the problem is crystal clear. The CPU and that single stick of RAM are absolutely kneecapping an otherwise decent GPU. The big question is, how do we fix it without spending a ton of money?
Well, the solution, thankfully, is incredibly simple and super effective. We're going to make two key upgrades that will totally change the personality of this machine and, hopefully, unleash all that gaming potential that's been locked away. So that first fix is all about the memory. By adding a second identical stick of RAM, we enable what's called dual-channel mode. The easiest way to think of it is like turning a one-lane road into a two-lane highway. You're literally doubling how much data can flow between your CPU and memory at once. It's a massive deal for gaming.
So here's our simple two-step plan. First, we're adding another 8 gig stick of RAM to get us to 16 gigs running in that lovely dual-channel mode. Second, we're pulling out that weak 4-core CPU and dropping in a much beefier Ryzen 5 5600, which has 6 cores and 12 threads. This should give our graphics card all the breathing room it needs.
All right, the new parts are in. This is the moment of truth. Let's fire up those same games and see if our two little upgrades actually made a difference. This is where it gets really fun.
Let's start with the game that just brought this system to its knees, Cyberpunk 2077. Before, remember, it was a stuttery mess, fighting to even stay above 30 frames per second. And would you just look at that difference? We've gone from a freezing, borderline unplayable disaster to a much more consistent, much smoother game. We are no longer limited by the CPU. The system is now GPU-bound, which is exactly what you want. The graphics card is finally getting to stretch its legs.
Okay, next up, Grand Theft Auto 5. This was the game with all that terrible texture pop-in, where buildings would just appear out of nowhere.
It's like a completely different game. Not only has the average frame rate more than doubled, we're soaring way past 100 FPS now, but all those texture and pop-in problems, totally gone. The world loads in properly, and the whole experience is just buttery smooth.
And for our last test, let's look at a fast-paced competitive shooter, Apex Legends. This is a game where every single frame counts.
The results here are just staggering. Seriously, we went from a barely passable 60-ish frames per second to hitting around 200 FPS. That is more than triple the performance. This thing went from being just playable to being a genuinely competitive machine.
So, after all that, what's the big lesson here? What did we learn from our little budget PC rescue mission? Well, it's actually a really important takeaway for anyone looking to upgrade their own computer.
And it all comes down to this one question. When your games are running badly, what's the first thing you blame? For almost everyone, it's the graphics card, right? It's the big, flashy component that's supposed to handle gaming. But is it always the real culprit?
And as this whole project just proved, the answer is often a big no. So the main takeaway is this. Before you go spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a new GPU, take a close look at your CPU and your RAM. The most transformative upgrade might just be unlocking the power you already have.